everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 11/4/25. Before we get to any of this, and it is quite a lot for a shorter period of time here. So before we get to any of it, I now open the circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love us, let them nourish us, and let them bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous type beings to be swept away in order that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. Now, I will explain this title as I go along. I titled this Fantastical Journeys and Tales, Masks in Disguise. And this is at first not going to make any sense to anybody. I will take you on a bit of a journey first. I will leave things in bullet points. I will do this part first. Then I will tie it back into the other main part of this. Beings, when they give you assignments, they give you quests, they give you things to do, don't buy into it. When they give you homework, don't buy into it. And I know some of you, both in the disclosure community and other places, are following synchronicities and spirit, different places, and it leads to dead ends. Don't follow it. And I know the cardinal rule in most of those situations that you're supposed to follow the signs and synchronicities. You cannot. Like what was discussed a couple of years back on Conspiracy Sector, there are people that believe all the synchronicities lead to the same ends, and just doesn't matter what the means is. That's completely false. You must discern every step of the way, every footstep, every move, every counter move. You must anticipate this. And I'm not saying just like chess moves. I am saying with your heart space and intuition that the intuition must rule. Critical thinking must rule supreme in this, because you will feel this out, even though sometimes the heart can misjudge things, of course, without the mind in there. You put the both together, and that's critical thinking. The reason I add this in, because we've run into this, and many of you will probably relate, and I've seen this on Facebook, even from strangers and disclosure people, community alike, where they'll follow something and now they're in a worse spot than they've ever been in their entire life. And some people say, well, spirit, tends to knock you down before before lifting you up. But when's the lifting up part? Now, why have I brought this up? Why have I done this? This goes back to another cardinal rule that I've said in protection and discernment for years. When something is happening that your resources are being drawn down to nothing, this is a predatory technique on malicious entities and or replaced guides. And it's an entanglement that is a rule of thumb. When you see your resources dwindling and things are being made on anthills, being mountain out an anthill, essentially. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. This usually means a predator is winding your resources down, and basically like what the weeping angels of Doctor Who would do, they'd wind down your potential energy. So you want to go see that reference, you go watch the show. I'm not explaining it. But, big surprise, isn't it? But with this, what I'm about to really talk about is, many of you probably encountered this. And I've seen gurus and seers and stuff talk about aspects of this for years. And it's like say if you were in a car accident, or I was hit by a car, or if you're one of those that doesn't put your seatbelt on while driving, then you're in an accident. It's like, oh, I didn't think it would happen to me. Well, guess what? I thought this same thing until this morning. So I didn't think that this exact thing was going to take place, even though years ago this exact thing happened to Levick. And he is going to be the one speaking on this episode today, as far as I know so far, unless any other benevolence wants to join him. But this happened. You heard me in previous episodes mentioning the fact that Isaac got attacked. And this still holds. Were events that took place with beings that were around at the conference this last time that I would never have had around myself. He physically was around in the environment. Granted, I didn't see him, mind you, but he was around. He ended up getting a curse put on him. And yes, this can happen. He ended up getting some viral attack, and then he got hit with a microwave weapon. Well, this was actually a mirror to some things that happened years ago. And I found out he was also in the SSP as well when I was. But the thing is, he also got hit the same time that the Martian Germans hit me. This follows in families, and he's a family member. He just looked like me, but with red hair and 7 feet tall. And he's part tall white. So he's technically a hybrid, even though we all are, technically. What took place was, and I will put this in a nutshell. If you guys watched the vampire episode, or about the vampire contagion, for the Halloween episode of GIC, you remember us talking about that channeling of David Bowie that was in that, and I couldn't handle it. And there was major blowback for that episode like you wouldn't believe. I mean, an unnecessary amount of blowback for that the likes of which I have not seen in a long time. And it was because also we were doing this during the Samhain time frame, and that whoever it was on the other end, I'm not going to name names this time. I know exactly who did some of it. I will not. I will not. You will never hear the utterance of any of the aliases of this other particular person or being ever again. So even if people ask me, I will ignore questions about this individual from this time on out. And I don't mean Isaac, I mean the attacker. So you either know or you don't at this point in time. So with this, what had happened? And I was seeing patterns over the years of course, since him and me having a familial bond, him and I had similar viruses in the DNA where we just had traits. Of course, there was temperamental times, there were happy times, bipolar times, things of this nature. And I was actually taken aback on how violent some of his bipolarness was. Him being in some of the SRA type situations and stuff, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm not going to bring any of that up. I just know that this was part of that. And the same as with some of my SSP stuff. Again, not the show for this. But just like one of the instances I first saw him in the SSP was on a Martian German vessel. But he was being held no different than anybody else. But he was given an assignment to watch over other troops that were on the ships leading out into the galaxy. And I was just asleep on one of them, woke up, and he made sure to tell me that if I didn't go back to sleep, they would kill me. That was just one specific instance. This was Mars, by the way. But with this, years ago, this was back in 2018. And we ran into an incident where he got hit with with spellbinding spell, and I got it off him. Then in 19, in Japan, there was this weird wizard type thing that hit. And in 18, he got hit with an owl witch as well. And then there were times where he had to be healed. And there was some weird happenings in the story or in the narrative a bit that was taking place. And this is why I labeled this Fantastical Journeys and Tales and Masks in Disguise. Because there were aspects to this journey that don't make sense now that I look back on it. And I will use one example, and people will remember when we were in Prescott. I always had that mask sitting in the background behind, and even in Granville I had it and had to get rid of it, send it to a haunted museum. That's when that being Sorak was in it. And I remember an implant being in my back from an earlier period in my life. And I basically threatened to rip the thing out myself if somebody didn't. And there was a cut on my back. I thought Sorak was the one that did it because the mask was sitting right directly behind me. It was the Velodians that actually did it, to tell you the truth. Their story was more the factual. The other fantastical side were some of the lines and spiels and storylines and narratives that we were being given over the years. And every now and again, Isaac would integrate himself into them. And I'm not talking about the overall him being Lanulosian human, all that. That's true as far as I can see. All of that, the Laniosius and stuff, has been true. What came before that, I can't substantiate. And it was integrated. That's in the Cameron era when we were talking about that, that in that time frame. It's safe to use that name because the being's long gone. But the point is, throughout that time frame, there was also one thing that was constant, no matter what the being was: a quest, a bit of homework, a bit of research, into going to look into something, or some assignment of some kind. And if people remember back when we were in Nightdale, before when we were first starting the lifting, we moved to Arizona, where we were told that we were going to go into business and do all this other horse crap that didn't happen in Cottonwood and be in a trailer and all that. And that led to the other instances I've told people about over the years, which I'm not going to rehash. The bullet point of this, or the asterisk of this entire, the crux of this entire thing, was there were assignments, there were fantastical tales, and there were journeys that led to nowhere. The proverbial Winchester house of journeys. Stairs that led to nowhere, journeys that fizzled out, business opportunities lost, people targeting us, and the crux of also the false synchronicities and stuff are forms of targeting. This is a very brutal form of targeting, and they will do it within a being you already know. And this could have been something that none of them knew about. This is why this is so sleazy. And you have to discern mannerisms. You cannot just take what is said verbatim. You must question every single thing intuitively that comes out of any being's mouth, because you are being tested constantly, even by benevolence. This is why we say true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. I consider a grand majority of these tests to be a conflicting agenda. And there are beneficial ones, but then there are nasty ones that will lead to some kind of unnecessary ruin. And some people would say, well, spirit works, or God works in mysterious ways. You don't know what the grand plan or the great plan is, type of thing. To me, I hear this and I hear just a line of horse shit, because this is where I personally am at right now. Do I believe there are things we don't understand and can't translate here because we're going from super omniversal and omniversal to multiversal and universal, two completely different operating systems? Absolutely, we can't translate this, like with Janeway with the Q continuum type of situation. Of course we can't. Go look that up. I've said it multiple times. But with this struck a chord so harshly that this was just unnecessarily brutal. He was hit with a form of vampirus sanguis. That's the vampire contagion. And this was a form of it that was not like the ancient one you heard us talk about. This is some variant that is incredibly weak and has a cure. But it doesn't mean it doesn't warp you. It has forms, it causes a form of dementia, almost like an Alzheimer's type of symptom. But you can't hide it after a while, just like with people with those two other conditions, either vascular dementia, or Alzheimer's. There comes a time where it can't be hidden. And this is the thing it causes, is basically eats you from the inside out. And times I was seeing Isaac being healed by the Velodians. He was in a glass-looking chamber, like what you hear about medbed, but that's just a cliche psyops that's going on. I'm talking about their tech, where he was put into this chamber. There were times where he was his original personality, and times he was not. Levick, back in 2018 and 19, went through this himself. It took him up until recent days before we could even trust to talk to him again. This was because of the fact that, you remember, anybody that talked to us in Japan that we're still friends with, and people that knew about this, Richie, hello. It was back then that he got hit in a similar fashion, and he even lost an arm in the process. So this is how brutal these wars in space are, these galactic conflicts. And there is something out there, and if I get this detail wrong, please somebody correct me on this. This came from another source that I only know part about. This is going through a bit of hearsay, so please correct me if I got this wrong. there was a Tibetan vessel that got hit, and another person was channeling them and those people, and this got taken over by a brutal group, and now that group is not around to channel anymore, the original one. And that person's life, their friends are gone. These friends of theirs are gone and were replaced, and also their business down here was in ruins because this is what they based the in totality of their business off of. Not that's the secondary thing. I'm just saying that was the as above, so it's below. So these conflicts go through this, and I mean, these conflicts happen constantly. It's not as good out there as we even thought it was. Yes, are these fantastical heroic tales put out there? And I'm not poo-pooing past life stuff. I'm not poo-pooing the stuff we talk about in GSC. I'm not poo-pooing the Lonulosian or Pleiadian or Velodian types of tales. I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm saying there's a stark difference between the psyops made-up thing and the other galactic reality that's there.
So I think, everyone has to give a little pause for thought in some of this now because, I think, what you were just saying that it's worse than we thought. I actually think that we were being told it was that bad. But
It just
what
it wasn't
happens-
registering.
But
Yeah.
what happens, and I think, I'm doing a little bit of reflection, myself, and we've said all the right words. We've said that, so is below, so is above. The warring, the unseen wars, the unseen battles, it is very real. We know that everybody wants to believe that we're getting ready to pop into this kumbaya that we're not getting ready to pop into, and that, we have to solve some of this. Everyone's like looking still for the savior, one of these groups, races to just come down and clean. And it's too messy up there. There's too many battles going on. It is for real. I think as more people begin to have experiences that they can't deny, then maybe some of it will sink in more how real this is. Like, for example, I know we want the saviors, I know we want all that, and we keep talking about it, but I'll be quite honest. If I did not have my personal experiences with my own two eyes of seeing a being that I know was not of this earth in front of me, you know what I mean? If I did not have these experiences, some of them that I've had, I could see how still in my mind I would be translating everything that we're talking about as a fantastical sci-fi, science fiction.
This is how some of the abducting aliens will translate it to people as they
Right, but
sell
I
it
mean
out.
that it's like that it's not really real. I have to tell you that.
Even though it is like Star Trek, but it's not. So, yeah.
Right, because you have to then, so yes, so seeing all of these shows, seeing all these things is trying to introduce the concept of something greater, the potential of something greater being there.
But they don't put the warnings before the spell, so just put it that way.
And you have to be able to have things happen to you to solidify it that, wait a minute, we actually aren't talking sci-fi anymore. This is real. And when you have experiences that you now know, oh my gosh, this is real. We are not alone. These types of things are happening. And especially not that you're seeing it etherically, but you're seeing it with your own two eyes in front of you, that, that your concepts on this begin really to change. And so, I can't express enough. It's something that's been in my crawl for a long time. For everyone out there that's just like, they need to just come down and fix this kind of scenario. And I get the pain as to why.
And I've been yelling for months to do, and months and months.
And I get it.
I get it.
But when you finally realize that the wars really are real, that you're thinking, I don't mean you, I mean you're just in general, you're thinking, that it can't be really like this,
But it is.
but it is really like this. Because I think we have all been, believe it, be it out of a religious faith or, we call it the misinformation in the new age or whatever. Most people have been taught and retaught and reinforced kind of this concept of a savior or kind of this concept of somebody else being able to come in. And it's like a festering wound. It can't be healed up by just sewing it shut. It has to heal from the inside out.
Yeah.
And us, we have to heal from the inside out. And so, there have been plenty of people who have put themselves in danger trying to be that wildebeest across the stream. And I think it just goes to show, and it's the same thing that we say. So take Isaac out of it, replace it with a regular human who's had SSP. How many knocks to the head and the body
Can you
take before you are truly compromised and something else is able to take your soul and, as I say, push it all the way into that big toe while something else is beginning to take over? And this is really what we're talking about. I think, honestly, we're sitting here having this conversation when we really want to cry, because for us, for me, with what I've had, this is real. And so, there comes a moment where you have to decide, even for yourself, what do I actually believe? Do you actually believe that everything other than a savior should be able to come in, that it's really not like that? What do you actually believe? We've been trying to share with you how difficult it is, how, there are races out there that don't give a crap about us. There are races that just want to use us as commerce. There are races out there, with all of these different agendas, and it's very real that you have to get to the point of realizing that so is above, so is below. And we haven't been able to stop our, warring here. And there's all kinds of vested interest and reasons as to why. And the same thing is going on out there.
Yeah,
I do believe, obviously, that we are on the course to becoming the pre-galactic society.
Yeah.
I do believe the contractual agreements are there and are being worked upon.
And do I believe there's tests here involved in this? Oh, absolutely.
Sure, just to see. But I think one of the, I don't know if you call it tests, let's just say markers. One of the markers for humanity is moving to the point, from the point that everything is just entertainment and sci-fi films or sci-fi conversation, or what would be the next great book to make into a movie, which people could take every piece of information that we have and potentially, say that would just be great movies to make. It's not real, but it is real. And so, when you move to that point, in my humble opinion, there are going to be other dynamics that begin to shift in you. All energy, all human energy is needed to co-create properly, meaning you can't divide and conquer anymore, even amongst, I'm sorry, you need to stop using the word normies. I'm sorry. Everybody's energy is valuable. And you can, we can continue to divide ourselves and put ourselves in boxes where we're better than somebody else. But there are billions of people, and there's all kinds of ways to have conversation to build unity and consensus. And that is what needs to be focused on, not every day to have another reason to divide yourself away from somebody. These things are very, very real. And all of these things are strategies to keep people separated. And right now, it's going to be our own energies that have to coalesce to push us through. It's going to be a wound that heals from the inside out. It is not going to be someone putting plaster Paris over a wound. It's not going to happen. It's not coming from the outside. And people have to get to the point to understand these concepts, to realize now more than ever, there is personal responsibility to grow past some of these thoughts that are holding us back. And so if you wish to think of Isaac, and even if you don't, what is wrong with right now, everyone in unity, wishing that this being, Isaac, who we've been, that we wish him his highest good, that we send those energies, that we see healing. Because again, I think even regular studies will tell you that the power of prayer is there's something to it, where groups can get together and change events. I think, again, we don't know, again, what the oversoul's experience really is to be, but I can guarantee you that for most people, there's so much overage. You're talking the difference between, again, a pothole and a head-on collision. So if you want to work on anything co-creative, I would say right now, lend your energies that, for Isaac's highest good, and that, that the healing process is there. I feel that part of that co-creation abilities is to see someone happy and whole. Like if you know somebody, again, people are undergoing cancer treatments all the time. See them as happy and whole. Don't see them constantly fighting cancer, because that's then the energies you're sending for them to constantly fight cancer. Go to the end, see the results, and focus on that. Do not focus on how it gets from point A to point E. Go to the end. So for me, from my experiences, from things that I have seen with my own eyes, I absolutely know these wars are happening. I absolutely know that there are, again, malevolent, demonics, and different things that are there. But I absolutely believe even more that we can all learn to co-create in a way collectively to overcome this, and we can heal the wound, and it will then open up to something else. So again, I only ask you, as I would ask you for anyone else who is suffering, that there's nothing wrong with taking a second to believe that maybe Isaac is a real being, and that you want genuinely his highest good at this moment in time. So I do ask you to do that. And I ask you to do that for anybody you know, human or otherwise, who is suffering, that you lend your energies to see people healthy, happy, and for their highest good. And so, but it's very real to us. It's very real. This isn't a story time. This isn't anything. It's very, very real. And it definitely, how many times can a being take hits? How many times before they themselves become, compromised or things like that? For people that were in the SSP, including Isaac, these are what we call sometimes the booby traps and different things that are set up to cause those hits, to do things like that. And so, especially if they thought you had any propensity to overcome things, these type of booby traps. But again, just keep this in mind, because again, for us, like I said, this is very real. And I just am going to see, that he has a speedy, healthy recovery, and, will be back with us as soon, as that process is done. I look forward to the laughter. I already, can hear his humorous, quirks, and, look forward to having these types of conversations again as soon as we can.
Yes, and I heard Levick saying, laughter, I can do that. So it's like, but yeah, but when it came to Levick, something very similar happened to him. And so, but with his, it took longer. So it was a very similar thread, and he did patrols all around the world. The Mozen have been actually very helpful in this as well. That's not exactly what they're called, but that's the name reference we're using. They've been very helpful in this as well. This is actually quite interesting.
And you know, one other thing I wanna reiterate as to why we will not, let's just say, name names. And I tell Vic Chris this all the time, and I'll just make it clear, because I will not give 1 ounce of energy to that being or beings. They are nothing. They continue to be nothing, and they will not get 1 ounce of energy. Not one. And that is the way, no offense, I'm trying to say, do not give any energy to any malicious being. Don't do it.
Yeah, to do this, you're fully Akhenatening them, which is basically wiping them from history. Yes, somewhere there's going to be a trace, somewhere there's going to be a slight record, but in the end, the soul remembers. So, Levick, are you actually around, or is it going to be actually somebody else? Okay. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Then I went Levick. I will keep this brief because of the fact that there is some tumultuous energies that don't want that conversation said. And this thing wanted you to name their name. Good on you for not giving credit, but also giving credit where credit is due. To give one a nameless deed, task, and saga is the worst thing you can do to them. The Vikings understood this to an extent and wanted to continue their story, which is good, but there's a difference between engaging in your story and and little internal quest and your quest of self, and following one that would point you in multiple directions. Do not be the one led around by a rope or a yoke. You must question every single thing that is said. Even he was questioning the totality of his own tale earlier. He was even saying this to dear Thorsden. And Thorsden actually congratulated him for doing so. The ones that do this are the ones you want to talk to. The ones that try to divert you and go, do not question, never question, those are the ones you don't want to talk to. Now, the ones that say never doubt, that you are under a form of protection, spirit is always watching, that kind of thing, different. There is a big difference between never doubt and never question. Never question is the mark of a harbinger of doom for your life. Never doubt are those that actually love you. Just to say this, a big difference, a very big difference. Now I'll answer your question.
So, you know, I do have to bring up the conference again, because I think, you know, like we've always said, Chris and I are not exempt from experiencing things, boots on the ground. We're not exempted from, you know, any of this. And I do feel that, you know, I think a lot of people were naive is the only word that comes to mind, naive about the potential gatherings of opposing forces at the conference. And
Certain laws have to be in place first before you can ever attempt that.
yeah, and so although, you know, there were moments there and this, that, and the other.
As well as weapon dampeners.
Well, I think, again, I think what gets hard for humanity is the fact that not a lot of people could literally see what was going on. Some could see. And like I said, if I didn't have my own experiences of literally with my own two eyes, not my third eye, my own two regular eyes, seeing some things that I have seen, then I can see I would have been caught up in a fantastical story too. But I've had too many experiences now to be that way. But so I can certainly understand being human without some of these personal experiences, why this would be so hard to get. And so
and to discern from, because one doesn't seem like a fantastical story. Like those that have been abducted, for instance, like say once somebody's a birther, what are they being told down on earth? That they are the epitome of the sacred feminine. This is a tagline for a birther. And so you see the stark reality versus the fantastical tale.
and that's important to get. So I think, everybody, of course, wants this to all be done yesterday, but it really is one of those things that, I have to give pause for thought. And I think others, as they're even hearing us talk about it right now, have to give pause for thought that milestone of people moving from sci-fi thought process to reality-based process.
Some are one, some things are one.
But that cavern is still pretty darn large. And I think it's one of the things where, the moot has, basically said with the forest people that they feel there needs to be an uptick of, them taking chances for people to see them and have more concrete people's eyes experiences so that we can move this concept a little bit forward. I'm going to assume it's going to happen in other ways as well, not just with the forest people, that again, this slow step forward, into having for people to realize that this is for real and not really just this imaginary process. And again, the old divide and conquer. I don't know how many times you all have said we shouldn't be putting ourselves in categories and,
Yes.
calling humans normies, we really shouldn't be doing that. And I think
There's no such thing as awake and asleep either, from my perception and perspective. There's never been any real such thing. This was a ploy to divide and conquer. But it really is who was susceptible to the dominant and who was not. This is not necessarily calling some people stupid. This was a fact of both genetics and immunity factors and susceptibility only.
right.
Not awake and asleep. Doesn't matter if you have the information. If you're predisposed to be able to have a certain weakness, like some people have blood pressure issues, some people have blood sugar issues, some people have bone issues, some people have skin and hair issues. They didn't invent that part, but that'd be like if you told somebody that had a really bad disease that they were somehow asleep, they'd probably want to kick you in the nuts. That's essentially what's been done.
Well, and again, and no offense, we have to look at what we would call the disclosure community as a whole. And what we were just talking about is susceptibility, that there are plenty of people that, again, may have some knowledge, but are still easily susceptible. Just because you're into the information that's coming out
Does not mean you're immune.
does not mean you're immune. And I think, again, that really has to sink in. And so that people need to understand that stuff and why listen to the information, but truly discern it is so important. Because, we always say, it's the information, it's not who's presenting it to you. Discern the message, do not discern the messenger, because they're going to come looking young, beautiful, in shape, all of the things related to, no offense, our vices of what we find attractive, not attractive, who has the it personality or this, that, and the other. That's going to be put out there basically so that you will learn to identify and adore certain people who then will potentially then be a bit more compromised and put out information that would maybe, not be so great to hear. So again, it's always discern the message and not the messenger, and the same things that have been being done forever to try and manipulate you with, what you feel is beautiful, not beautiful, personalities, all of it. It's still going on. All of it's still going on. And so, you just have to understand that these things are out there that are happening. And believe me, they're going to come after your vices. And we've said that before, that, you have to be aware of what yours are, and you really need to have it together when this stuff comes around.
Yes, you forgot tits. But they will use this too because it is based on a vice.
Well, that's right.
Because think about it this way. If you really wanted to get your information out, how would you? And how would you connect it to also, if you were putting on a narrative or propaganda, how would you also connect it? The good guys are doing some similar things. The ETs are using beautiful ladies to come down here to interact because they believe people are kinder to women. It depends on the culture, I suppose. But 99% of the time, or 95% of the time, no, actually that's being way too much. More like 85% of the time, that was true. And it's slowly rising because of the fact that the bad guys saw what people on the galactic side were doing and decided to run psyops the same way, but based on vices, based on, what will draw them in more. And you've seen this in commercials too. Again, there's nothing wrong with a almost naked lady advertising a beer or something like that. Zero wrong with this. But when you take that to the level of running a propaganda spiel, and you are a galactic on top of that, that is actually running a hedge bet, not the good guys that are doing their thing. Oh, no. Not like the ones Billy Meyer was talking about. No, 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 no. I'm talking about the assholes. They looked and saw that same technique, but only there's, of course, the princes of the universe that transmorphed into their photoshopped forms. The Nordic, Orion, Aldebaran, whatever's things. Whatever the hell they're calling themselves now. But anyway, the photoshopped ones there, or faceless ones. But anyway, whatever name they choose. But in this, what I'm trying to say is they're not only that, sometimes they will use the vices against you in the wrong direction too. They have the New Age movement go completely celibate too, but be okay with naked. But then punish those that were sexually attracted to that. Why would you not be? This is what your nudist community does. Not dumping on linulists because they have the right idea of the mix of both. When it came to Earth, it got corrupted by Orion principles. Both the celibate side basically saying, oh, you're fighting darkness, that's the angel devil, Jesus, devil God crap. And basically dividing you light from light, basically saying, if somebody says, oh, that becomes celibate. Oh, I fought this. You're not supposed to fight it unless it's gone overboard into a vice. You're supposed to keep balance at all times. The New Age community figured, okay, I'll add this in, but take away the sexual side and call people deviants that add that back in. What happens? Some of it attracted, and the photography industry attracted some of this as well, the models and such, to a certain extent. Not the models, but the overall concept. I started attracting some of the sleazeballs, you would call it, that were the overboard ones, that the reason you'd want to shut that side of you down. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the overall messages get clouded by the improper use of this. If you are trying to advertise something, go right ahead. If you are trying to get across a message and or protection or even just merch, you're fine doing it, whatever you want, as long as you enjoy doing it. But the line is crossed when one cannot discern what's the term, red sparrow from that of an actual, how can I put this, messenger, Then there's the ones that are actually giving the message, and the messages are actually being overshadowed by those trying to suck you into a vice. And they may look similar at first glance, but they're far from it.
So it's just, again, it goes right back to the concept, discern the message and not the messenger. Try to really listen to what's being told and learn that discernment skill and, be able to do that. Sometimes, again, within growth at all, what you discern, may change in 6 months, even when a certain subject, as you're growing, and we all are growing and continuing to grow in our understanding of different things. So I'm not trying to say that there aren't genuinely beautiful people doing beautiful things. Don't get me wrong. I'm just going to say that, believe me, the psychology of understanding people, understanding how, to hook them, understanding all of these different basics and these tactics, they got it down. They know what they're doing. And so again, you have to really take the time to try and really know yourself and try to really discern information that is coming through. And now to understand, as we've said before, that some of the people that you are speaking to, channeling to, and everything, they are not gods. They are real flesh and blood. Again, that the telepathy and the ability to be able to communicate with them is present, and they are real, fighting real wars, fighting real things, and these problems do exist.
Just because you have not seen a particular technique before does not mean the being wielding it is somehow omnipotent. And there's no such thing as a light being. There was beings using technology that made them look like they were shining. If Isaac were around, he'd tell you about the tall white technology and the Tuatha De Danann tech. It was the armor in which they were wearing. They did not sparkle and glow like the Twilight vampires, even though sometimes they might resemble them. They might be butthurt at that statement. But I'm saying that some of this was tech, some of it was accessing the very ether by which the telepathy is used, some of it was technology, where some of them use a little crystal on their forehead, or some of them to communicate, or some of them use this like a psionic resonator or a communicator. Some of them use communication arcs very much like you use your cell phone from their home. ET phone from home in this case. So they can go across vast distances. You've heard of subspace in Star Trek. That's a real thing where it goes through that substrate of subspace where it would seem like it's this whitish like vein. That's where it's going through. Radio signals would never make it except for over very, very long centuries of time and swaths of time. Now, the point I am trying to make is none of us are gods. You have all been taught in your supposed mystery schools that we are somehow all gods and goddesses. No. You may feel like that inside, but there's a fine line between saying you are God and godly and it becoming ego. And saying you're impervious because I have access to this knowledge, so therefore. No. Are you one with benevolent source creator? Absolutely. Are you God? You could say that. Not using that particular term because Enlil got trademark and copyright over that, unfortunately. Not to give him any power either. He's kind of the dweeb in all of this, but I say dweeb fairly lightly. But anyway, I will use kinder terminology because in this, the anybody that says they are a god is not necessarily so, even though technically by definitions, like say with Odin, for example, is he a god, one of the gods like Thor? Yes, you can say that because there is a certain definition that he would give that would put them in a particular category by which then they have a certain resonance frequency by which then they can traverse different realms. Okay. I'll give them that 110%. You can say that you're one of the gods. Sure. Different story if you say you are. Say, You are gods and goddesses. Okay, if you mean it in a self-actualizing and self shadow work type of thing, or more of a confidence builder, like your Bruce Lee went. He says, I'm confident enough to know I'm always number one, but also wise enough to know though I'll always be number two. If it's one of those situations, yes. If it's an ego buster or balancing of the ego, because you always have it, because that's a survival instinct. You can't be rid of ego. That's an oxymoron. That's another self-dividing premise. Your three-letter agencies filtered in through the New Age movement. You can thank them for that particular boneheaded move. That and organized religion, but I won't get into that. But to say that you have now become the epitome of, say, I've gotten rid of my ego, what about you? Yeah, it doesn't look like you have, because that is ego that you said to everybody else, look, I've gotten rid of it. Bit of an oxymoron and contradiction in terms, don't you think? So, I will say once again, there is no such thing as awake and asleep. I said this years ago to a different audience. Even though I wasn't 100% myself, I wanted to bring this out, and it is good that you have brought this out once again, because the original audience that heard this was not receptive. The one now will be.
Well, thank you. And it is an interesting thing because you have some people say little GODs and then the big GOD. It always is a question of, well, define what that means.
Big and little God sounds like a couple of rappers, actually.
I know, right? But isn't it the truth? So you've got some people that are at a frequency that, you know what I mean, the source of all things, basically type of energy with at that frequency. And then you've got the little G's that maybe can do more than we can right now. But again, they're just somewhere in the middle, really. I hate to say it. They're just somewhere in the middle. Again, always somebody with greater skills and lesser skills. And really, if you start looking at life that way with yourself, there will always be somebody greater and lesser, let's just say, than, and skills wise, then you'll probably be safe. But I mean,
or somebody that has one lane and someone else that has another.
right. So, but again, I think this is a moment we wanted to talk about too, again, from our perspective, in all seriousness, to really talk about what we talk about. Some people will be like, oh, our channel, it's just for entertainment purposes only. Well, that ain't us, folks. So,
No.
We've had some experiences and had some things in our lives where, for us, again, you can take it or leave it or do whatever. But this is not for entertainment purposes for us. This is trying to provide real information and for us to continue to grow and become ready for out there. There are certain realities and certain understandings that you have to get underfoot. And I wish I could say that it was nothing but floating on a cloud out there, but it's just more with bigger guns. And, you have people that get along, you have people that don't get along, just like it is here right now. So just keep working on yourselves, keep understanding. I feel that people are going to have more, and if they're interested, are going to end up having more experiences that will open their eyes to be giving more evidence to certain realities that are actually around us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's needed and it's coming. If you want it, you need to put it out there, that you genuinely, for benevolence for yourself and great understanding, that, you can have some of these experiences. But then the question is, are you ready to give up the savior mentality to do it?
Yeah.
So,
And part of this war is, you've heard of the Trojan horse. Where do you think humans learn this from? It's from out there. As above, so is below. And during that time, there was a lot of galactic garbage that went on with Achilles and his family, and also the Orions and things of that nature around the Battle of Troy. Achilles went into that. I'm not going to steal his thunder, even though he would probably steal a couple other people's thunder. I'm just saying. But in this instance, they tried to turn Isaac into a typhoid Mary, and the galactic community took that very seriously. Warfare on that level, biological warfare or any other, is considered to be completely, basically an act of war. And this is how this was out there. You say, all of you that are listening, you want ETs to come down here and help out with your problems. And especially medical, and the Velodians have the ability to do this, of course. But on the flip side, when some of the Lonulosians tried to come around the long way, what were they encountering? Nuclear warheads pointed at them and some violent human. On the reverse side, when you say you want ETs to come here, do you bother to specify? No, you think ET phoned home. You think the little guy with the glowing finger. There are beings that look like that. They're actually on starships, but they're more they're more waiters. Actually, they were genetically bred to be servants, but now they're their own species. But anyway, that's where the glowing finger guys came from. Kind of like somebody that would stir your wine and be kind of gross. And no, I'm kidding. They're actually nice people. But at any rate, not to, they can talk to their own story at some point. I laugh every time I think about the Robot Chicken episode where they made him the mentally handicapped one of their people. And that one was actually kind of a kick to the nuts of some of them, which we found kind of funny. But anyway, they called him Cleavework in that, which I found funny. But anyway, I'm into joking too. So, any rate, is the way you see things on Earth right now? Imagine certain things on a galactic scale. And imagine, like in Star Wars, for instance, some planets have colonies. Some planets have cities, like your Coruscant and things of this nature. Also, in your Star Trek, there are inhabited worlds, and there are backwater ones, like in your outside the Federation territory. You see all these where the Rangers were in your Star Trek Picard, or where your Georgia was in your Strange New Worlds movies, or Section 31. It's like that. That's actually accurately depicted, or your canteen on Tatooine. It's like that. That's not off. But what you go through down here, it's as above, so is below, or as so is below is above. It's the same things, you see. You're encountering people with the same issues, the same problems, things that if you can think it up, they've thought it up 1,000 times more. Just because they have advanced tech doesn't mean they're gods, doesn't mean they are hyper energy beings that can heal people. All of this horse shit. Most of the mythology, just like in Doctor Who, when your River Song character said most of the myths are about him, meaning the Doctor, most of the healing myths are about the Velodians, because of the Asclepius factor. And some of the others that actually were using some tech or some energetic healing techniques to help people at the time. And some of them knew better than to come out, but some of them couldn't help themselves over the history, which I don't blame them. I've done the same thing. I really can't blame them. But some of the rules are very unfair, which they are. But if you knew the extent of some of the things that you are wishing for, you probably would not be so ready to wish for it. Yes, it would be good to travel from place to place in the galaxy, like you see in Star Wars. You work on your own ship, and you go out there and you go to another planet and find work, or you do this and you do that, and you go eat dinner, or you go have a home for yourself. Of course, Earth deserves to be part of that community. But do you know of what you ask? No, you do not. But if you want to make it a certain way, you have to make it a certain way. Just like with sending healing to Isaac, it's the same principle. Is there a galactic federation? Yes. Are there good aligned, aligned planets, not like in the Alliance in Firefly where there's not aligned and aligned. It's similar. There's some not aligned, some aligned, like in your Star Trek Strange New Worlds where the Gorn were raping planets outside of Federation territory and some, and none in. Yes, of course. There are certain things that happen on the outer edges of out in the black, as Firefly would put it. But are there goodness, and there's places that don't see war? Absolutely. Lonulus is generally one of them. Very peaceful people. And yes, do they have a construct out there, and do they have an opening here to the interverse dimensional space to that? Yes, absolutely. Does it mean that some typhoid Mary couldn't be put on their doorstep? No. Just because you have a longing to be in a home, be home in a place, doesn't mean it's 100% safe. And The reason you are longing to be in these places to begin with is because your ancestry came from out there, like in the movie 65, out they were depicting. And you got to go from planet to planet to planet. But you also saw them using rockets in that too, showing that there was a progression of technology, and it mirrored here. Now you have rockets and you have UFO. So you're seeing a mix and mishmash of technology that evolved and de-evolved from the Orion Wars over a period of time. But in the 65 million year ago period, when it was at its height, and it's getting that way again, don't worry. It's just like a mix between your old Republic in Star Wars and your new one, fledgling one. It's kind of like that. But it's been around a long time in some form or another, just like your Cabal has on Earth in some form or another. And other galactic councils and people on Earth have been around in some form or another. Like the Mozen, for instance. They can do their own story at some point. But what the point I am making, if you knew what you were asking, if you had the context, would you really be asking that ET phone you?
Thank you. So I think we've had enough to talk about and for people to think about on this show. I don't know if you have any for this particular show, any last comments, and then, we'll head out for the night.
Also, don't be so quick to want to be abducted either. Just saying. I know people are saying, oh, take me, take me, take me. No. Bad. Bad, bad, bad. Slap. Because of the fact, again, you do not know what you ask. If you say true benevolence with no conflicting agendas, like they do, yes. But you're thinking of the Greys, you're thinking of all this, and they're probably butt raping you with a probe at some point. No, why would you want this? Why would you be into that? Seriously. Kidding, not kidding. Sorry, not sorry. Just saying thank you and good night. Bye-bye. All right. Yeah. So that's actually funny. He was showing me little Greys with the glowing wand and finger butt probing people. Isaac was not the only one that had a sense of humor.
No, he's not.
But now his brother Thorsten is more like Christopher Walken with a deadpan dry. Levick is kind of a mix of the two, but he'll go off and just hurriedly add in the punchline amidst the what he's saying. So he's a kind of a mix there. Better, he says. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's him mooning Thorsten, I guess, at the moment. But anyway, I don't know if you have anything else to add, Joanna?
No,
Okay.
no. Just send again healing energies for his highest good to Isaac.
Yes, I completely agree with that. But I also have to ask, do not call out to him for help in any way, shape, or form at this moment in time. Please, that is a personal request from us right now. This would only hinder things. I know your situations seem ugly right now, and you're just trying to find out, look for assistance right now. Hence why people went to our little short, clickbaitish video on YouTube. When you need assistance, within 12 hours, there was over 1,700 and change views on there. I understand this is the main topic right now, that people are in dire need of assistance from somewhere, something, and somewhere, like the train calling all angels song, where are you type of thing. I get it, but know what you are calling on and don't call on angels. I'm just saying. Don't know what you're calling on and why you're calling on it, and within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas. And you got to know the reason why you want to be out there. Is it escapism, or is it because you really want to explore and you want to know more about it? Or is it a blending of the two? I've seen mainly a blending of both of those ideas, actually escapism in that. What is it? Tell us in the comments. Do it. Say what you want to say about this subject. It's welcome. So at this point, I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.